the inclusion of Byleth in Smash, that now makes the total Fire Emblem reps for Smash Bros. 8 separate characters. That's right. And there's a lot of controversy surrounding this character, because not only is it another Fire Emblem rep, but it's also another swordsman using Fire Emblem rep. And it got me thinking, well, it's only a matter of time until Sakurai includes yet another Fire Emblem character, because I'm sure it's bound to happen. It got me thinking about the Fire Emblem series and what other characters it could offer, because like I just mentioned, all of the representation for Fire Emblem characters in Smash have been typically blue-haired swordsman protagonists. There are a few exceptions, like Roy, who's, a red-haired swordsman protagonist. Okay, no, not talking about him. How about Robin? Robin's a great example. He doesn't have blue hair. And look, he even used magic tombs. Look, it's showing the magic side of Fire Emblem. Oh, wait, that's right. He still does use the Levin sword. How about Ike? See, he's different. He uses actually like a two-handed weapon, a much heavier weapon. Oh, right. He's also a blue-haired protagonist. Believe it or not, there's actually a lot more variety to the Fire Emblem series than just blue-haired protagonists. Even though that is a common trend throughout the Fire Emblem series, there are more characters that are also popular that don't necessarily share those traits. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of go over a couple of characters that could potentially be the next Fire Emblem character that Sakurai chooses. Yep, that's where we're going. One of the most popular characters in the Fire Emblem series is actually the first protagonist from the first Fire Emblem game that came out in America, being Fire Emblem 7 or Fire Emblem GBA, and that is of course Lyn. Lyn is one of the most popular characters in the Fire Emblem series, and is a character that a lot of people for the longest time have been requesting to be in Super Smash Bros. Of course, she has played the role as an assist trophy for the past few games, and is also an assist trophy here in Ultimate. So while there really is no likelihood for her to make it into this game, looking at the future of Smash, this could be one of those characters that could receive a promotion from an assist trophy. But would she be any different? I mean, first of all, her hair is green and not blue. I know, right? That's a pretty big aspect. But at the end of the day, she is yet another swords user. So would she be all that different from what we've seen so far? Well, maybe. She's kind of built around to be this really speedy character using like her long sword, or I guess a katana if you want to call it that. So there could be a moveset developed around this idea of a speed-oriented swordsman. But honestly, as popular as she is, yeah, she doesn't really offer much unique to the table. A speedy swordsman, that's just Shulk on Monado arts. What really could she offer new to the table besides just being a fast swordsman? Sorry, Lyn, I don't really see you making the cut. The next character is yet another really popular character from the same game as Lyn. This character being Hector. Hector is one of the more popular characters from series history, and I know what you're thinking. Yes, he does have blue hair. I know, we're kind of running into dead ends here, but he uses an axe. So it could offer a little bit of variety to the gameplay there. He's not a swords user, he's an axe user. In addition to that, he's also wearing a more bulkier armor set, so he could be oriented about being like a slower moving character using his axe as a weapon rather than a sword. I could really see him using big sweeping attacks and smashes, perhaps even using a hand axe as a thrown projectile. I think there is something they could develop around an axe user for a Fire Emblem character, but I think the biggest challenge would be trying to diversify it from Ike. Because I know Ike is using a sword, but he basically is that heavy swinging swordsman, or what's the difference going to make if you just put an axe in his hand rather than a sword? So, yeah, let's just scratch that. Hector's not going to make it either. Another really popular set of protagonists are the two brother and sister from the Sacred Stones, being Ephraim and Erica. In their case, let's see, blue hair, check. Swordsman, check. Protagonist, check. You know what? They fit all the boxes, so maybe they will make it in Smash. In all seriousness, no, that's a big fat no. Bye, we're done with that. Let's look at more actually unique characters. One of the most unique classes in the Fire Emblem series are their mounted units, whether a cavalry rider, or more particularly the Pegasus Knight and the Falcon Knight. Some of the more popular characters in that class is Camilla as a Wyvern rider, and Keita as a Pegasus Knight. For the longest time, I was really on board with the idea of Camilla actually becoming a full-blown character in Smash, because for the longest time, she was one of, if not the most popular character in the Fire Emblem series at the time. People were obsessed with her. I don't know why, like, I can't even think of two reasons why people really were obsessed with this character. Anyways, what's unique about both these characters and classes for that matter is they do both wield a different weapon. They're not using swords. Pegasus Knights are more typically associated with using a lance, and the Wyvern Riders are more typically associated with wielding an axe. So both are an entirely different weapon type that hasn't been typically represented in Smash as the sole weapon the character uses as to fight with. But I think the biggest problem comes with the actual mount itself, because the character proportionally should probably be as tall as other Fire Emblem characters. I mean, the character should be proportional to the other, normal human build characters like Link, the Fire Emblem cast, stuff like that. Because once they're on their mount, it really adds a lot of size to the character. And don't get me wrong, we have large characters in the cast. Bowser, Charizard, Ridley for that matter. But each of those characters are just that character. They're just the size, like they're big, but they did their best to constrain them and make them still fit the game. But when you have a proportionally normal human-sized character riding on top of something that's potentially even bigger than that, I just feel like you start to run into a bit of an issue. Instead of the character always riding their mount, perhaps they only actually pull it out in their special moves or their smash attacks or something along the lines of that. Maybe their aerials, they'll jump onto their mount and use an attack like that. Or their up B and recovery will be assisted by the use of their mount. I just feel like it would still be such a big increase in size out of random that would not only make your hurt box just massive when you're inputting any of these moves, but beyond that, bringing something that big out of thin air, it might just feel a little weird. So while I would love to see a mounted unit in Fire Emblem somehow, I just really can't see a way to incorporate them right without like there being shortcomings of the character being too big or not using it all the time. It's a little complex. So perhaps maybe we're better to take a look at some characters that are popular reoccurring characters throughout the series, not just from one specific game, but come along throughout the Fire Emblem series. Tiki being the first great example. Tiki's been in a handful of different games, and she's typically the young girl that can turn into a dragon. And of course, we have Corrin, that is the only Fire Emblem rep in Smash that can use a Dragon Stone and transform parts of her body into a dragon. We've yet to have a full-blown character who can completely transform into a beast, dragon, or whatever you have it. Well, I think it could be a pretty interesting concept, especially if you tie it to like a meter, for example. Because if it was just, she just turned into a dragon at the start of the match and she was a dragon the whole match, then it would be like, why is Tiki even the character playing here? It's just a dragon as the character, you know? Another popular and reoccurring character is Anna. Anna has been typically just a merchant throughout the series and has traveled with you to help store your items in your convoy. And that's really kind of the role she's fulfilled. But in later games of the series, she's actually started to join the battle. She was playable in Fire Emblem Warriors. She's playable in Fire Emblem Three Houses through the DLC. Kind of just been a really wonky character all around. She seems always to be really suited well for like the assassin type role or the speedster character. But I think honestly the best way to really incorporate her in Smash is to bring in her merchant mechanics. I love the idea of her just being all of her moves kind of being a grab bag of different kind of items and stuff throughout the series. What if she had a mechanic where as she attacked other players and inflicted damage, she actually got money for doing that? She can then use her down B or whatever move it might be to have a similar kind of menu selection to Hero, and there's a list of upgrades and buffs you can actually put onto Anna. Perhaps there's like upgrades where you can buy like to upgrade your weapons from like iron to steel. Perhaps there's like your speed, jump, or other stats within Smash Bros. So idea of it being kind of similar to a Shulk with the different Monado arts, but rather than it being a time limit based, then you can buy these upgrades and they will stay on your character until you die or fall off the stage or lose your stock. So the idea is the more you survive and hold on to your single stock, the more buffed you can get to your character. I mean, I'm not thinking something completely ridiculous, but the point is, it would benefit the idea of playing this character with the intent of staying alive as long as possible. But here is a real curveball. They could technically include a character from Tokyo Mirage Sessions. And I know that's kind of crazy. It's like, wait, that's not a Fire Emblem game. Well, at the same time, it technically is. I mean, they already have collaboration with Atlas through Joker, so I see really no reason why another Atlas character eventually couldn't come down the line. So the obvious choice, that would be, of course, the protagonist with Itsuki, as well as bringing along his Mirage, Chrom. One of the most unique things about Tokyo Mirage Sessions is the session attacks. So when you're in battle, it's all about trying to find the weaknesses of the enemies you're attacking. And once you find an attack that they're weak to, in a single character's turn, you can actually link up other attacks from your other party members based on the certain ability moves you use. So I don't really know how they could incorporate that mechanic into Smash. Admittedly, the session attack would realistically probably be the final Smash. And actually, the more I think about it, Itsuki is basically Joker. I mean, if you think about it, he's just like high school teenager or whatever, but there's the real world and then there's this fantasy world. And in the fantasy world, he takes on a different persona, literally, wearing this different outfit and crazy clothes, and he's technically this Mirage Master now, or in the case of Joker, a Phantom Thief. In addition to that, while Joker can use his Arsene, here in Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Itsuki can use Fire Emblem characters such as Chrom to be like their backup support and their weapons. And wait a second, it's the same game. If you like Persona 5, you probably might like this game as well. I mean, it's definitely a different wrapper, don't get me wrong, but I'm starting to think that Tokyo Mirage Session might have been the precursor to what eventually was Persona 5. Cool to think about. But that really has nothing to do with Smash. So we've gone through a lot of characters here for a potential Fire Emblem rep, and honestly, I'm kind of just grasping at straws, because it really feels like the Fire Emblem cast has definitely come to a conclusion here. Honestly, having a Fire Emblem Three Houses rep in Smash made a lot of sense, because it's a very popular game, especially with being the most current Fire Emblem game, because it feels like a lot of the Fates characters are kind of whatever and forgotten about at this point. Well, at the time when Corrin came out, you know, they were all the rave. So I really don't see them going back and bringing back a classic character as a full-blown character. It makes more sense to bring the most modern Fire Emblem game into the modern Smash Bros. Roster. And honestly, with it being such a big complaint within the community, Sakurai actually recently addressed said complaints in a recent Famitsu article. I'll put a quick link to the translation to it in the description below. Sakurai talked about how the fighters are not decided by his own favorites. It's Nintendo that brought the idea to the team and to him. It's Nintendo that at the end of the day that makes the decision on the new full-blown fighters, and it was up to them to decide what characters would be in this fighter pass. He mentioned how characters from titles with a long history do tend to get chosen as Smash characters, but there are the obvious exceptions where certain characters are developed in Smash Bros. Alongside while the original game is still in development. The examples, of course, being Byleth and as well as even Greninja. Sakurai talks about that he does understand that there are a lot of Fire Emblem characters and there are a lot of swordsmen. So that's why he tried really hard to make Byleth unique in a way that the other Fire Emblem characters weren't. He thought the best game mechanic to do that is to adopt the 3 hero relics owned by the 3 house leaders to kind of bring in the aspect of 3 houses. And while yes, Byleth is a blue-haired protagonist swordsman, the reality is she does play completely different than the rest of the Fire Emblem cast and does offer a lot of unique abilities to the Smash Bros. Roster. Being able to swap between multiple different weapon types, and for that matter, attack range, speed, and whatnot. But even her sword alone is totally different than the other typical swordsman, just because it's like the whippy sword. Name any other Fire Emblem character that can do an up smash like this. Sakurai concludes with the success of Three Houses, saying that there's no mistaking that it's a good game. And I can totally agree with that too. I love Three Houses. But I am definitely of the opinion the chapter has closed on bringing new Fire Emblem characters to Smash. Well, at least this game. Probably anyways. What that holds for the future, there's no way of telling. When we eventually do see a sequel to Fire Emblem Three Houses or a new entry in the series, I'm sure once that comes along, new characters that will be popularized within the series, and likely they'll be blue-haired, they'll probably have a sword, and they'll probably make it into Smash. So thanks so much for watching. Be sure to give this video a big, awesome like. And if you haven't already, definitely subscribe for tons more on Smash Ultimate and new Fire Emblem characters that we bring to Smash. Thanks again, guys, so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya!